man?
What's happening? How are you?
How's everything in North Carolina? I heard you were down in Miami, huh?
It's good. Yeah, I was down in Miami all week at a conference, speaking at a conference, and then get home long enough to get my laundry cleaned, and I'm heading back out to LA. So
Good.
another
So welcome
conference.
again.
Yeah.
Good, man. So a warm welcome again to Craig Picken, president of NorthStar Search Group. Glad to have you back again, Craig. And I was actually thinking about over the past week to do another episode on how to make $1 million in executive search, executive recruiting. And then it dawned on me, I said, why don't I talk to Craig Picken, $1 million producer? So what better person to have on the show than the one and only Craig Picken? So Craig, welcome again. And
so I am the epitome of this. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, if I can make $1 million in the world, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's just not,
Sure.
it's not, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to make a good income in this world.
So how did you get started in recruiting? I mean, did you have an epiphany? Like what happened? I know you and I were in some initial discussions, but like, where did it all start? I'm just kind of curious.
So it started with the financial crisis. And I moved to North Carolina because these billionaire brothers out of Virginia Beach, one of their buddies who I had done some business with referred me to them, and they said, hey, we've got $1 billion worth of real estate on the Carolina coast. And we want you to come down and help us develop it. All right, sounds good. I like Carolina. I was ready to get out of where I was, which was West Virginia. We liked it down here. So we're like, we're in, let's go have some fun. And the one question I asked him though, it was 2007. And you could kind of see what was happening with real estate at the time. It was a way overheated market. People were all levered up. And I asked him, I go, look, guys, how levered are you on this real estate? And it comes down to asking the right questions, right? And they go, we're very levered, as we should be. We're real estate developers. We should be levered. I said, and then they said, but we can pay off all of our loans with free cash. Okay. The question I didn't ask them was, are you willing to do that? And the answer was no. So here we were. So 2008 comes around, Bear Stearns blows up. Lehman Brothers goes under, banking crisis happens. We had all of our loans tied to Wachovia Bank. Nobody was buying real estate. Nobody could get financing to buy real estate. Nobody could get financing to develop it. So I lost my job, and we were totally gonzo. The house that I just closed on was now worth $200,000 less, like 60 days earlier than, we just closed on a house, and 60 days later, it's worth $200,000 less. I'm in North Carolina. I'm in a house I can't sell. I got no job. Real estate is dead. I was actually offered a job to go back to selling airplanes. Didn't really want to do it. And then I was talking to some guy that I used to hire to train my sales teams. And he said, hey, I'm involved with this executive recruiting group. He goes, you would be a really good executive recruiter. Let me introduce you to him. So that was kind of after about, but talking to some different groups and stuff like that. That's how I got started. That's literally, that's how I fell into it. I mean, it was sort of,
wow.
It was like, there's no straight path in life, right? God takes care of drunks and idiots. I'm not sure exactly which category I fell in, but it was one of the two.
So when did you finally realize, like, when you started your business, because I'm sure you had to start from scratch, when did you finally realize, hey, this may work?
I was 12 months into it. And I think I was 12 months into it. And I actually had my first year was actually pretty good, getting started from nothing, rebuilding my relationships, finding new relationships. Yeah, literally it was about the first year. I made an okay income, broke even, on the business, but, cash flowed it. Wow. And then I knew, hey, look, I'm good. All I have to do is keep kind of marching forward. Just keep marching forward. And
So what are some of the skills and attributes, two different things, skills and attributes that someone would have to be very successful in executive recruiting?
look, ultimately you got to, everybody, here's what drives me nuts about, there's a lot of people chasing the dollar. They chase the dollar, and you can't chase the dollar. This is a people business. You are dealing with businesses who need great people. My focus is entirely middle market and small companies. It's not big OEMs. It's not billion-dollar Lockheed Martins or Boeings. It's middle market and small businesses, and they cannot afford to make a hiring mistake. They certainly can't afford you to make a hiring mistake. So my opinion is that you got to be a people person. You got to just help people. You may have folks who are, in a bad spot in their career. You may have people that are just, you got to be honest with them and tell them what the reality of the matter is. Hey, look, you're great. Go find you something better than what you got now. Let's work on that together. You may have some people who are struggling for a reason. And then you have to go, hey, look, here's why you're struggling. If you don't change, your life's not going to change.
Right.
With regards to businesses, you got to be able to talk to the CEO of a business and say, here's the reality of the situation, or you got to understand their business and be able to get deep inside their head or their business and understand exactly what the skill sets are that they need, even though they may not be able to verbally communicate what those skill sets are. So, it's understanding people in business.
Yeah. So, as an executive recruiter myself, obviously, one of the things I found out early in my career was, this is not a transactional business.
Mm-mm.
This is highly consultative. You've got to be a trusted advisor. People have to trust you, and you've got to be really good at what you do, because ultimately you're competing against their own human resources group.
Mm-hmm. People smell it when you're transactional.
Yeah.
They smell it. They smell people who are in it for a buck. Look, I don't care. I mean, to me, it's like, hey, if I get people calling me saying, we want you to help us with a search. Here's my process. Here's what I charge. Here's what your requirement. Here's what your retainer requirement is up front. If you want to do it, cool. If you don't want to do it, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's my way or no way, because in my process, I'm successful.
Yeah.
And people, I'm dealing with this group right now. They're like, hey, can you lower your price? No. Can you do it a little bit? No.
You're exactly
no,
right.
no, I don't. No, I don't, because I don't care. I mean, what do I care about? I care about successfully filling a role that comes my way with a high caliber client. I don't care about the person who just wants to beat me up on a fee. I don't need the business that bad,
Right.
that I'm willing to reduce my standards.
I call that the takeaway close. You have to be willing to walk away from any deals. So let me ask you this, Craig. So explain to our viewers, for those that don't know what the model is. I mean, people call us headhunters. So, okay, we're headhunters, executive recruiters, executive search consultants, but explain to people, like, what is the business model? How does an executive recruiter like you, how do you make your money? I mean, what is the business model? How do you make money?
Yeah. So here's what I don't do. I don't get business from companies and then begin a search. Let's go scour the world for the right person. No, I'm very focused in my industry. I'm an aviation aerospace guy. I am building relationships every day with executives out there, talking to them about something. Hey, look, Joe Smith. Hey, Fred, Joe Smith suggested I call you. Just make an introduction. I don't know if you're happy as a pig in the mud, ready to slit your throat, somewhere in between. Here's who I am. This is what I do. I just wanted to reach out, have a chat, build a relationship. That's it. The conference I was at this week, nothing but building relationships. If I build enough relationships with enough people, then I am a very credible resource to CEOs or people who are looking for the next step in their career. You know, I become a matchmaker of people. That's exactly the way I say.
Yeah.
I'm not searching for anything. So I don't like search consultant because I'm not searching. I'm a relationship builder, business matchmaker, whatever. I mean, I had had an equity group call me up 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now. And we just started chatting. They've got a struggling business. We started chatting. And I'm like, okay, they're like, can you help us? I go, yeah, I can help you. One phone call. The retainer check hadn't even gotten to me yet. I made a phone call. I get a call from the head of the private equity group. Where have you been? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Where have you been? Like, perfect
Yeah.
person to fix their failing business. And I'm like, hey, look, not only can I help you with that, but next time you're going out and buying a struggling business, which they do, they buy struggling businesses, they fix them. I can help you with the due diligence. And if you get me in early, we can have 2 or 3 people you should be talking to before you buy the business, so that when you own it, you are ready to say go, and you're not going through 6 months of frustration. That's what a good search that's what a good search partner or a good executive recruiter or whatever you want to call it, headhunter does for a business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, Craig. In my practice, we focus exclusively on insurance, and I'm no longer a recruiter. I'm a trusted advisor.
Mhm.
When a company wants to figure out who's selling, who's buying, I usually know.
Yep.
I've got a top 10 board. I've got the top 10 best salespeople, best account managers, best underwriters. I already know these people. Like you said, it's all relationships. So when they call, I usually have the guy. And the other thing that you probably do, tell me if you don't do this, when you get that perfect, that great candidate, that A+ candidate, sometimes you can start calling your clients, hey, I got this unbelievable sales guy. Would you be interested? Absolutely. That's the best search to make.
Here's what, like you are like the ultimate. I mean, you're very focused in the Washington, D.C. area. Everybody knows Rob Houghton in your industry, in the insurance industry. You know who's good and you know who's not good. So if an insurance business calls you up and says, we need the best account executive, we're already talking to these 3 people. You're like, no. Okay, this one may be decent, really okay, but here's the, and they go, well, why do you know this? Well, I know everybody. I've been around the industry for 20 years. In this, I know everybody. And then you start telling them things about their business, and it totally freaks them out. Like, oh yeah. The guy the person in your business that was doing this, he or she was struggling for a while, and they're like, whoa, what do you mean? So,
it's like a lot of times we get ahead of the market too. We see trends because we deal with so many different companies, big, small, different geographies. That, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, but sometimes we see industry trends before the industry does, just because we're talking to so many different people.
Sure. I call private equity groups up all the time. Do you know this executive? No, we don't. I'm like, you need to meet this person. And I will set them up on a call, like, look, at the end of the day, how do I make my money? I make money by placing people. But I think part of the credibility comes in is when you're calling up really strong equity people or really strong business leaders and saying, you should meet this person, and they're going, wow, that guy, Rob Houghton, he really knows who the right people are for this industry. That's so, it's, but you only do that with the very best people. How many times have you gotten like really, mediocre, people calling you up and go, man, I want to make a change. Will you call some of your clients on my behalf? You're like, I can't do that, because you're just not that good. At the end of the day, look, I mean, I think part of it is part of being successful is telling people that, hey, look, your track record is
Yeah,
maybe your track record maybe should allow you to go focus on something different. Or maybe you're trying to be a salesperson, but what you really are is a customer service person,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
type of deal. Hard conversations to have, but
You have to, yeah, you have to have those conversations. And the other thing I know from my side is, how do you balance the fact that, at the end, I feel like a lot of times I'm a candidate advocate. In other words, I'm talking to a candidate, I'm coaching them, I'm helping them with their resume, maybe I'm talking to them about interviews, counter offers. So you do form a personal relationship with some of these candidates, but at the end of the day, we work for the client. They pay us.
Mhm.
We have a contract with them. Do you ever find any difficulties in maintaining that balance?
No, because what I tell people is that if they're good, I introduce them to a couple of my clients and they're not a fit. The client says, hey, they're not fit. They're not a fit. It's okay. But what I tell the candidate is, hey, look, you've got a good path forward. I may or may not be the executive recruiter who places you, but I will be there for you and I will help you at every step along the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so ultimately it's like, look, let's get your resume. Let's get your resume done. Because ultimately here's what happens. They get a job and they remember who helped them get there.
Absolutely.
They say, hey, this guy, Rob, Rob Houghton, he really helped me get there. He got me, he really gave me the confidence and got me the foundation to be able to step out and get a better role. Now it may have been another recruiter who placed them, or they may have found the role on their own, but they will always come back to remember the person that really dug down deep and helped them.
Yeah, because those people that you place in a VP role of, let's say, sales, that could very well be your next hiring authority.
Mhm.
Now they're calling you saying, hey, can you hire me some sales guys? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. How do you, in this business, there's a lot of disappointment too.
Sure.
If somebody says they're going to take a job and then you call the house and you get the wife on the phone, and the wife says, wait a minute, what job are we talking about? We're not moving. We're not moving to Chicago. What the hell was my husband? I mean, tell me you haven't had that happen, right? I mean, how do you deal with disappointment?
Yeah, no, look, I don't, I've had people turn down roles, but the first thing I start doing when I start talking to somebody, there's a couple things I want to know up front. So it's illegal to ask, what do you make? What's your salary? In a lot of states right now, it's illegal
In a lot of states. Yeah.
So what I ask is this, all right, straight up, what's the role that you're looking for next? What's the role? What's the money that gets you interested? What gets you interested? What keeps you on the bench? So if I bring you a $200,000 opportunity, are you looking at it hard, or are you saying, you snoozing at it? Third thing is, are you willing to relocate? Or, is it, are you locked down in the current city you live in, or are you willing to relocate? And the fourth thing is, are you on board with your family?
Yeah,
Tell me
right.
the conversations you've had with your family. So those are four things that I want to know straight up when I start talking to people. And so I clear them, and every step along the way, I'm talking to them. All right, what's your spouse say about all this? What do your kids say about all this? You're thinking about you. But I've had turn downs. I just had somebody turn down a very high paying job because at the end of the day, they're like, I went down a long path and we thought about it hard, and it just wasn't, at the end of the day, the more I think about it, it just wasn't the right opportunity. I'm like, okay, you're not going to change your mind. I mean, it's not like you're not going to just call the client and go, okay, I guess we're back to square one.
Yeah. And you know what happens in that situation? It seems like you always find somebody better than that person.
Yeah, you
A
always
better
do.
candidate comes along.
Eventually, you just can't be in a hurry. I mean, hiring you just can't be in a hurry. It's like, hey, look, let's let's just get through the process. We'll go through it. We'll find somebody better or equally as good or better. But yeah, a
So
lot
let
of
me ask you
times
this, Craig.
we want it now, and like, well, be patient. Let's just be patient.
So there's somebody, let's take a hypothetical situation again for our viewers out there. Somebody's got a pretty good job, middle management in a corporation,
Yep.
and they want to be an owner. Okay. They want to get out of corporate America.
Right.
They're motivated now to get out from behind the cubicle. They're tired of this soul killing Fortune 500 bureaucracy. I call it soul killing.
Yep.
They take your soul. You're commuting an hour and a half each way. You're sitting in a cubicle. You got a bad boss. You are absolutely miserable. You come home, you kick the bicycle on the front lawn, and on the way to the kitchen table, you're kicking the dog. So you finally find God, if you will. And it's like, okay, I'm ready for something else. I'm ready for something new. I want to build and grow something. I heard these guys on the internet, Craig Picken and Rob Houghton, talking about executive recruiting. How do you get started?
Yeah. So
What do you do?
I've been having that conversation with people a lot lately. And I think
Yeah.
it's a lot of the great resignation, the times, just the COVID brought on everybody. A lot of the reasons people don't, I call it's a lot of battered wife syndrome. I mean, it's kind of a harsh way to put it, but why do battered women not leave abusive husbands? Because they've been beaten down so much by
Yes.
a bully that they lose their own sense of self, and they lose their own, everything that is part of their being has been destroyed, and they're battered, and they don't understand that they have value. And so I take people back to the very beginning. Say, all right, let's talk about you. You're good. You're a good sales producer. How much money? How much revenue did you generate last year? Well, I was in the top 10% of my company. All right. So you're a good sales producer. You're the top 10% of your company. You brought some new clients to the table. You just break it down to the beginning and go, who would want to hear about you? Think about you. Who would, you're successful, your sales, maybe you got on a bad boss, maybe you're just beaten down. But let's build you back up. Who would want to, who would want to talk about a successful? Don't you think this person would? Yeah. Don't you think that person would? Yeah. Don't you think? You start to build them back up, and you go, hey, look, I'm a firm believer. Every person has value. Yes. Every person has value. They just got to dig inside and go, what is my value to the world? And start to ignore the negative forces that have beaten them down so much.
So let's take that a step further. To be $1 million producer.
Yep.
As you are, because this is all about $1 million careers. So let's take that person. They've got a decent, I'm not talking about some guy that just rolled up on the Eastern Seashore in a rowboat or something. I'm talking about, somebody who's been in business, as an employee, somewhat educated, maybe a high school degree. I don't know, but just, a decent, hardworking person who wants to make money. So just take them through like step 1, step 2, 3. I mean, if you can do it in just a few minutes, how do they get started? What's the first thing they do? And how do you eventually get on that track to make $1 million?
Figure out where you have value. I sat with a guy at dinner 3 nights ago, no college degree. There was 3 of us at dinner. Him, another fellow who sells insurance, of all things, and me. And we were all sitting at dinner and we were talking, and come to find out, one of the guys I'm sitting with is worth about $1 billion. Like $1 billion with a B. He was talking about the jet that he just sold and he was flying around on. He flew the heck out of it. And we're talking about college degrees. He goes, I don't have a college degree. I'm like, he's like, I didn't need a college degree to get to where I am. And, he's, and the insurance guy across the street or across the table from me, he's like, yeah, he's got about $1 billion. I think it comes down to this. It's 1, sit down and figure out where you have value and what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And go focus on it. Two, ditch your loser friends, ditch all the naysayers who are going to tell you you can't do it. Go find positive people in your life. Go read positive books that will give you inspiration and energy and get pointed in the right direction. Three, just go, do it, start.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look, is it humiliating? Yeah. Anybody who's run a business or has tried to take themselves to that, they're humbled at some point of the way. You know, there's always somebody out there who's going to tell you you're not good enough, or, oh, we want to do it with this other person, or, you know, whatever else. You just ignore them and you go, all right, I have value. But you figure out what business you want to go in, you know, where you're going to be good, why are you going to be good at it? You read some books to help you drive it, and you focus and you focus and you focus and you focus, and you get on you get in the diamond lane, and you don't stop until you hit your goals.
Now, what about specifically executive recruiting? Somebody wants to get started in that. How do they do that?
So look, I got into executive recruiting. My focus of executive recruiting is the aviation and aerospace arena, which is actually a very big planet. So I'm not everything to everybody. My focus is typically aftermarket maintenance, repair, overhaul companies, or companies that focus on aftermarket maintenance, repair, overhaul. Less than $500 million in revenue. Some of my companies are as little as 10, my clients are as little as 10 million in revenue. You have to be an expert. You have to know the space. You can't practice on your cut. You have to know the area. If someone said, hey, Craig, you're going to go be a executive recruiter in healthcare.
Yeah, very difficult.
No, I mean, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. But I could be, I could certainly be one of the top, what am I don't know, top 5 in my area. I could be, yeah, because I know because I know it. Look, there's going to be people out there that don't want to do business with me. I don't care. It's okay.
I would agree with that. I would say that my advice would be to do what you and I have done. Specialize in a specific industry. You go into an industry that you have experience in, that you know, and that you like, you know. And then I took it a step further. I actually said, okay, mine's going to be insurance. I've always liked insurance. I know a lot about it from operating at the C level of other companies. And I decided I'm going to slice this thing down even more and be the expert in just the Washington, D.C. region. So I really have no competition because nobody else is in my space.
Right.
And so what happens is you raise your prices.
I'm a
And
dominant.
the reason why you do it is because you can, because there's value there.
Well, let's talk doctors.
Yeah, right.
General practitioners make, on average, you ready for this? A general practitioner, family practice doctor makes somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 a year.
It's unbelievable.
It's not a lot of money. Not a lot of money for all they've invested in their career.
Right.
A top orthopedic surgeon who only focuses on shoulders, or a neurosurgeon who only focuses on brains, makes well into 7 figures a year.
Yeah.
You think about the more the more focused you are. So yeah, I think about my practice. You know, what do? I do CEOs, CFOs, operations people. I don't do HR. You know, somebody says, we need an HR person. Ooh. I don't even know what a good HR person looks like. I've never, I don't want to say I've never talked to one, but they're few and far between.
HR people hate us.
HR
I mean, admit it,
people,
right?
Look, HR
They
people
hate
don't
us.
like me. No.
They hate us, man, because we're doing their job.
Well, no, I don't think so. We're doing their job. It's that they feel like they've lost. If we get stepped into the process, they feel like they've lost a little bit of control.
Yeah.
You know, which is really not true, because why would an HR person be expected to be everything to everybody? You know, their comp and benefits, their employment books, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And then all of a sudden they're supposed to be able to identify the best candidate in engineering, operations, finance. You know, it's come on. You once again, you can't be everything to everybody. So, but people come to me and go, will you help us identify an engineer? Nope. They're like, why not? I go, because I don't know what an engineer, I don't know the difference between a good engineer and a bad engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
no.
tactically speaking, though, like
Yeah.
if someone's going to start up a recruiting business,
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, all you really need is a small
Phone.
office, a
Yep.
computer,
Yep.
phone, some social media expertise,
Yep.
some industry background, and know how to network, right?
Yep. Yep. And you know how to become smart in the industry and become the expert in the industry.
Yeah, you have to become the
Understand?
expert. There's
Yeah.
no question.
I mean, what deals are going to get done? What mergers and acquisitions are going to get done? Why? What new policies coming out of government? How that's going to affect, how that's going to affect the regulatory environment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it. But once again, it's you think about what you and I have done. I'm not a Fortune 500 guy anymore. I
No.
was, came out of the military. I was with a aerospace company, multi-billion-dollar aerospace company. I went to another multi-billion-dollar aerospace company. I'm not, I've had offers to go to work for other people, and you think about it, you go, so wait a minute. Yeah, explain that math to me. I have to build double to make what I do now.
Yeah.
And why do I need to come to work for you? They're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, I don't mind sharing this, but both of us, we're closing in or surpassing $1 million in annual billings with basically no expenses. And someone calls you up and says, hey, would you like to take a $450,000 a year SVP of recruiting for a Fortune 500? My answer is like, what are you freaking kidding me, man?
Yeah, right.
Why would I give up this to go work for you 8 hours a day, man? It doesn't. And then they laugh at you. What are you talking about? I'm like, there's no way you couldn't pay me $2 million because there's only two kinds of people again, right? Owners and temps.
But it comes down to like, the people that listen to this, and they're like, how many people are listening to this? And they're saying, if only to make that, to make that kind of money. And I know people that look at $1 million and they laugh. They're like, yeah, that's a pocket full of quarters.
Yeah.
Which is great. Hey, look, it's, but I was a 2.0 and go in college. I graduated with a business degree. And there was one semester I received a letter from the university. If your grades don't improve next semester, you'll be invited to study somewhere else. Okay, that was a wake-up call.
I love those letters.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, look, a 2.0 and go. I call it a 2.0 and go. I graduated college with like a 2.5 GPA, 2.4, 2.5 GPA. I was not the smartest guy in the room by any means. Probably could have been had I applied myself, but there was something about beer and girls that, I just wasn't, it was like, it took me a little while to get into the groove.
Hell, you couldn't make it in the freaking Navy obeying senior commanders. How the hell are you going to make it in a regular old Fortune 500 company?
I was like in trouble every day in the Navy. If everybody wanted to march left, I thought the path to the right was better.
There you go, man.
But ultimately it comes down to, look, I think the first thing, to have a very fulfilling career, take the money out of it.
Yeah. Right.
To have a very fulfilling career, it requires you to stop listening to the noise and start listening to the little guy in your brain who is usually smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because everybody will tell you what can't be done. Very few people will help you sketch it out on a pencil and say, if you do this, you'll be great. Because they don't, if you do that, what, that's risky. If you're not willing to bet on yourself, why would anybody else want to bet on you?
Yeah. And the thing about the recruiting business that is unlike almost any other business is once you build up your book of business, once you build up a book of clients that trust you and you're doing good work, that's not going away. Nobody can take that from you. No. Nobody can take that from you. I mean, you have a career. It's not even a career anymore. It's like a vocation. I mean, you are the go-to guy and nobody can really take that away from you. So you have something, the ultimate stability, because no matter what job you have, no matter how much money you're making,
Yep.
You're always two weeks from the door, man. How many people have called you up? I mean, how many CEOs have you called up and said, hey, I got a position for you. I don't need to talk to a headhunter. I'm good, man. And then a month later, they get fired, man. You know, how many times does that happen?
Oh my gosh, that happens to me. That happens so many times. But yeah, but here's the funny thing: is a really good. So I was at this conference in Miami last week, and I was invited to speak for 3 days. It was a 3-day conference. I was invited to speak on the third day. For 2 days of the conference, all I heard people, all CEOs, all senior executives, and they're saying, "We can't find people.
I know.
We
it's crazy.
can't find people. Nobody wants to work. Yak, 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 whine, whine, whine." I get up, I had my presentation all keyed up, ready to go, and I threw it away. And I was like, this is all right. I got up, I go, guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, I got my PowerPoint behind me. And I apologize, but I'm throwing it away because for 2 days I've heard you whine about we can't find good people, whatever. So what we're going to talk about is how to drive a culture in your company that will attract the best and the brightest.
Yeah.
And people are taking notes. They're like taking notes on. I'm going, I talk to you people every day. I know which one of your companies are great. I know which one of your companies are not good. I know who's got, there's one CEO I talked to, the average tenure of his employee was over 20 years. Yeah. There was another CEO there, the average tenure of his employee was about 3 months. Revolving door. I'm like, yeah, some turnover is good. A revolving door is not so good. And if it's a revolving door, it's not it comes down to one thing, you as the CEO, because either you're hiring bad people, which is your fault, or you're creating a culture that nobody wants to be in, which is your fault, or you're creating a culture where nobody can thrive. And they see the writing on the wall, and that's your fault too. So it all comes back to the CEO. So anyway, I mean, it's like
Yeah. So what do
diversion.
you do when you have a client, right? That all of a sudden you find out that it's a disaster, revolving door, no purpose, no mission. They don't treat their employees with respect. There's no process. What do you do?
You tell them. You
And
tell
then what
them.
do you do?
You tell them, look, I'll give you a couple of years ago, 5, 6 years ago. Company hired me to do salespeople. They just wanted to rebuild their sales team. I'm like, all right. And I knew the company. I knew the company well. And started the process. I'd say I was into it a month, maybe a month and a half. And I'm talking to all the great salespeople out there in the industry. They're like, no way, no way. And it all came back to the VP of sales. So I just got on a calendar. I wrote the COO of the company because the CEO was a little bit, he was gone all, he was busy. He just, the CEO was the designated person. The COO was the designated. So I wrote the designated person, the COO a note and just said, hey, we need to talk. I got on the phone with her and I said, hey, look, you can tell by the little bit of discomfort in my voice, but I'm just going to bring you the reality. You don't have salespeople problems. You've got a sales leadership problem. Here's what the industry is saying about your VP of sales. And the next word out of her mouth was, wow, I'm glad you said that because we suspected the same thing and we were getting ready to start a search for a new VP of sales.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's it. You have a very candid conversation with them. You say, look, I may be wrong. You may fire me at the end of this conversation. If you do, I don't care because I can't help you.
Yeah.
So you just tell them.
Yeah, I get into that with several of my clients. One in particular will not embrace remote work.
Mhm.
And they can't find anybody because they're right in the middle of a huge metropolis.
Mhm.
And the only way somebody can commute 5 days a week is if you find a candidate who lives literally like within 10 miles of the office
Mhm.
and there's nobody there. And I keep telling them, you're not going to find anybody. And even if you do, it's going to be somebody that's not an A+ player. They didn't listen. They didn't listen.
Mhm.
And ultimately I had to tell them, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. All right. And they're still looking a year later for the same person.
I had a potential client call me on a Sunday night. Really made me mad because Pat Mahomes was in the middle of his comeback. And I got a text. Can you talk? Yeah, okay, I'll talk. And they're like, here's our problem. You know, they're getting poached. They talked to me about this one role, or he shot me some emails. I talked to a buddy of mine who was on the same airfield. He goes, yeah, they got a good reputation over there, but they just don't pay. They don't pay. And they're 30% below market. And that leaves everybody in Eastern Florida. Just, well, hey, look, come on, Disney. You know who the airframe and power plant, licensed airframe and power plant mechanics. You know, a licensed A&P is a requirement to work on on an airliner. You know who the biggest employer of A&P mechanics is in the state of Florida?
Disney.
Bingo. Bingo.
How come?
Because they're like, hey, look, we got complex machines too. We got these riots. We got they're
right,
people.
exactly.
They got to be safe.
Yeah.
If you're smart enough to work on a $30 million jet airplane, you could probably fix Dumbo. So they hire up they're bringing them up. They're like, hey, look, we got big bucks. You know, if you're making $40 an hour as an A&P mechanic, we'll pay you 50 in Orlando. Great. And it's Disney. We got good benefits. So these people are getting poached, and they say, you know, so they're losing a lot of their tech. And I had an answer to the guy. He goes, you know, I said, you're just not paying your people. And what's happening is you get them there. And then he's like, then we need this other position filled. It's an executive role. And I'm laughing. And he goes, yeah, I go, what do you want to pay this person? They're like, you know, I don't know, 160 grand. And I'm laughing.
Exactly.
I just placed a guy at your competitor for 200.
I got the same kind of client.
Why would somebody take your role for 160 if they could come talk to me and I can get them the same job for 200? And they're like, well, we just can't go up. And I'm like, well, then suffer. It's your problem.
Hey, this is why these states are making it illegal, like the state of Maryland. Virginia, you can still do it. Maryland, you cannot ask somebody how much they make, because here's what happens. A job is worth 150. Some poor guy or poor gal's making 100, right? Because they're significantly underpaid for whatever reason. You tell the client that. Client's like, how much is this person making? 100. But the job pays 150. Offer them 120, 110. I'm saying, don't do it, because if they take the job, somebody else is going to hire them. But they don't get this, and they get cheap. They get cheap. I'm only paying them 100. Why should I pay them 150, Rob? It's a 50% increase. I'm like, listen, ass clown. That's what the market is. That's why you pay him that.
That's right.
It's crazy, man. This is why they're outlining that. I hate it when the client says, how much are they making? It's none of your effing business, man.
Bingo.
You gotta pay this person how much they're worth, or else they're going to walk after a year.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
Exactly. I'll put it even in more succinct. Real estate right now is going crazy. Yeah. A house in Virginia, Reston, Virginia may be worth the guy may have paid $500,000 for it 2 years ago, but today in this market, it's worth $1 million. Somebody comes in and says, what'd you pay for it? 500. The answer is, what I paid for this house is completely irrelevant. What is it worth today?
Right.
What is it worth today? So for what I tell people, that's why I ask people, I go, look, I don't care about what you're making. Now, a lot of times people will come back and they'll say, well, look, in all full disclosure, here's what I'm making now, which is great. That's okay. But at the end of the day, what you're making now, to me, it's a guide. It's like, all right, so if I got you a nice little pay raise, and this company over here is telling me that this job will pay you something big, we're on board. Yeah, great. Okay, cool. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. And the people that really get hurt the most on that is women.
Oh
women,
my gosh, it's crazy.
Women. Yeah, it's.
This is making me crazy. I feel like a vigilante now, because in the insurance business, and everybody knows it, so I'm just going to say it. Anybody listening, insurance brokerage, insurance agencies, it's an old white man business. It's all a bunch of old white guys. Okay. I'm a white guy, so I can say it, I guess, but it's the truth. Single women, single moms who live in apartments, they should be making, 80, 90 grand. They're out there making like 55, 60,000. We're like, how do these people do it? Well, the owners of these businesses are driving around in brand new Escalades and great vacations, which is okay. I mean, I'm a business owner too. We take all the risk,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of people out there just getting beaten down for no reason.
Mhm.
A lot of that's going on. Yeah.
I have, some of the, I'm just looking at my board right now. I placed a lady, phenomenal leader, absolutely incredible leader. And the company that hired her originally wanted somebody on site in a different state. And she's like, I can't do that. Like, so they talked. And oh, by the way, during the middle of the process, she's like, yeah, we went down a month or, went a month or two down the way. And it was a very extended 6-month hiring process. And they're just getting ready to offer their job. And she says, hey, I got to tell you something. I'm like, what's up? She goes, I'm pregnant. I'm like, okay. She goes, should I disclose it? I go, it's not legal for me to. I don't care.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
the
We
bottom
can't
line
do
is
that.
she tells the company, hey, look, not only am I not moving, and we agreed that this could be okay as remote, but I'm probably going to take between, she just had her baby. I'm going to take the next 60 days off. And you know what they did?
What?
They wrote her a big check to get her on board. The CEO of the company calls up and says, hey, we got this offer in front of her. And is she going to counter? I said, no, actually, I think she's pretty happy with the offer. He goes, you know what he says? He says, hey, tell her to counter back at me a little higher because I left some room in there for negotiation just in case we had to do it. So the CEO says, hey, tell her to come back, ask for $25,000 more. So the bottom line, I guess I digress a little bit. I have placed some women this year who are absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they are great leaders and they're hitting home runs. And that's part of the that's part of the expertise that I think a good executive recruiter brings to the table. It's like, you understand who the playing field is and you bring them the great leaders and you help them no matter, women, Black, white, Hispanic,
Exactly.
diverse candidates, it doesn't matter. You're like, this person is great for your business and here's why.
Right.
And I love that when that happens. And I
Yeah,
love it when
right.
companies come back and say, hey, tell them to counter back a little higher because we left some room in there for
Yeah.
negotiation. Yeah.
And those become our cornerstone clients.
Yep.
Those are the ones I spend my time on.
Yeah.
The guy that
Yeah.
beats you down on a fee or doesn't answer your call, or I don't have time for that stuff.
I don't care. Yeah. It's like that. I got no use for you. I mean, beat me up. At the end of the day, look, it comes down, I think it comes down to people in general. They got to feel good about where they're at.
Yeah.
If the boss is if you're going into work depressed every day,
Yeah.
it's time to call a timeout. It's time to really, Rob, you're an executive coach. And what they should be doing is calling you up and they should be saying, I'm beaten up, I'm bullied, I'm not feeling good about myself, I'm in this terrible place. What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I can help them.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you do. You help people.
I mean, we're kind of out of time now. I want to thank you for being on the show, but this just reinforces what I've been thinking. And I do give this advice, particularly to people who have a sales background is, if you're tired of getting beat up, if you're tired about getting disrespected, dispirited in the workplace, what better way to open up your own practice and be an executive recruiter, man?
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest job out there. I mean, you do have to take some rejection and you get discouraged, but fight through that. You can make a lot of money. And more importantly, you can have a lot of fun doing it and build yourself a book of business. Anybody can do it. Anybody, I come up with the example of a guy rowing up on the shore. That guy could do it too. Anybody could do that.
It's an admirable
Anybody could do it, man.
Look, it's an admirable, if you're doing the right thing, by people, look, if you want to just be in business for yourself, no matter what it is, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So thanks for being on, Craig. I appreciate it, man. I wanted to have somebody else besides me just out there talking up recruiting. Appreciate it very much. And we'll see you next week, man.
Cool, buddy. Sounds good.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.